After that many years.
Then people died. Well, Mrs. McCutcheon, she died, and then I don't know if it's still in.
All right, so it's water and sewer meeting, October 11th, 6:30. Have a quorum. I did not get an email from anybody that wasn't going to be here, so.
Quick look at that. If you just want to pass it around, I didn't print out one for everybody. Just a quick update, some pictures.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Nothing to add. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. September 13th minutes are given to you, so we want to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Larry,
Second.
Paul, thanks. In favor,
Aye.
aye, opposed, approved. Hey, Joe, wherever you want. Start at the top.
Yeah, to start at the top in terms of the wastewater construction update, we did just put together the update that Dylan's got. Larry's got a copy too. Like I said, I didn't print copies for everybody. It did.
Number 12.
No, the wastewater treatment plant update, we send a monthly update to the MPCA.
Okay.
And then we also put it in the council packet, so I sent it out today. Jeff just put it back together. He's on vacation last week, so he didn't have it done back in here. But lots going on, as you kind of see in the update. Things are really have taken form in terms of the buildings are essentially up. They've got roofs, they've got windows or wall panels, painted the interior, lots of the plumbing and electrical in terms of the conduit and the piping work has been done. The only building that's really not up out of the ground is the admin building. And that's, the slabs poured, the footings are in, the electrical, the plumbing are in, and that framing is going to start here probably later this week or early next week. So that won't come up and the little memo is pretty good update. There's some visuals in terms of what's going on there, but contractors continuing to make pretty good progress.
On track schedule wise.
Yeah. The one caveat to that is some of the instruments and controls, the electronic components are of concern, whether they're gonna be able to meet the schedule or not. So
you had mentioned that even submittals on those were behind schedule, that those have all been received and approved and
yes, they have not been. They've been through several iterations, let's say that. I think the latest iterations have all done. I think there's one shop drawing left. Frankly, that's fairly consequential. Just the big ones have went out. So, there's time there, but that part of the industry is just really, that maybe from your work in Rochester, it's just they're always behind, and the automatic systems of the world are crazy busy and seemingly understaffed, and that's always that's seemingly a pretty consistent theme. And so Dobbs been pushing hard, which I appreciate, trying to move that part of it along as best they can, and they're going to be ready. It's just a matter of whether those final pieces are there when they want them. So,
Do they give them, does a vendor give Stop any updates at all, or just don't call us, we'll call you when we've got something to tell you, or?
well, I think they get updates, yeah. You know, I think they talk. You know, Stop is not the only facility that they're working on, you know, of course, and probably not the only project they're working together on. So they talk fairly regularly. So they know what's going
Are
on.
there any concern or penalties or anything, since obviously we're counting on having it live and generating revenue from users? If it gets postponed 1 month, 2 months, that revenue that was to go back, help pay the loan, is there anything that's the manufacturer or contractor are liable for?
Yeah, there's liquidated damages in the damage clause in the contract that, you know, there's milestone completion dates, substantial completion and final completion, and all of those are subject to liquidated damages to the tune of thousands of dollars a day per calendar day. And so Staub would probably look to pass some of those along to their subs if that was an issue. We'll see. In terms of the contractor pay request, Staub has another pay request number 10. That pay request is $1,830,890.35. And that will go to council. So another big pay request, similar to pretty much most of the summer. So they're about $12 million in value complete of a $21 million project. So they've made, just based on that, pretty good progress. So
Call that pounding it out.
I haven't worked with Staub before, but you know, frankly, I'm impressed. They're a pretty good contractor. They got some know-how and they get stuff done and they do good work. So from what I've seen, we're happy. We do have a formal change order that has been prepped. I did give you guys a copy of the change order. I think last month we even looked at it. Subsequently, it's been refined a little bit, even from the copy that I gave you. And a couple things have changed. Within that change order, I can just briefly talk about the few things that have changed and why they've changed. Item E, the cost actually went down by about $5,000. That was just a function of some things got finalized and they sent me their final numbers. There was a little negotiation back and forth, and that one went down from 95,000 to 90,800. Item J, that's a change order for a splitter box modifications, and that we just pulled from this change order because the contractor is still working on a few items specifically that we've questioned. We think we're supposed to be getting a quote back or a credit back on some of the costs, so it should probably push it down from the $16,500 in the change order here. And then the last item really is the aluminum dome cover. Staub submitted a letter, which is also on our agenda tonight, and we included. But that aluminum dome cover, if you remember, Staub bid it. And their supplier on that dome cover was Ultrafloat, right? And Ultrafloat went out of business shortly after the bid. And so, you know, as part of the construction bidding documents, there was two pre-approved suppliers for that aluminum dome. And ultimately, Staub found a different supplier, Apex Domes, because the alternate supplier was, their cost was like 90,000 more than than Ultraflow. So Staub found or has used Apex domes before and submitted their information to us. We did look at it and they are approved as an equal. And their cost is slightly more than Ultraflows to the tune of about $16,922. And so looking at the contract, I don't think that you are contractually obligated to do anything, the city that is. From the contract's perspective, it's tough luck. You know, from the contractor's perspective, you know, it's unfortunate. It's not really their fault too, but you could argue that, you know, you should have had a stronger contract with your supplier, you know, that guaranteed that they'd be able to perform. You know, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but talking with Staub, they're kind of saying, well, the reality is going back on that contractor as they are going out of business and trying to recover any financial loss that they might experience. The chances are fairly minute. And I believe that to be true. So Staub has written a letter here, and they kind of point to a few things in the contract. Frankly, they're kind of grasping at straws a little bit, but I think it's more of an issue of how do we want to treat the contractor. My perspective is I'm a bit sympathetic towards them because I think it's, you know, sharing in that cost might be the right thing to do from you know, from the perspective of treating people how you'd want to be treated. You know, it's not their fault, but it's not the city's fault either.
What's the spend on that dome, the total spend versus the 16,000 additional?
There's two domes and I don't have that number. It's pretty significant.
So is it?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So the 16,000 is as a percentage of increase in price, not that.
Right.
It's not like it's 30% more because
No.
the other guys went bust.
No.
All right.
You know, and they, you know, I don't have a concern about the product that they're supplying. I think that's gonna be fine. It's just, you know, do we do what their letter asks and make them whole on that purchase? Do we split the difference, or do we say, sorry, that you had some bad fortune, it's not our fault?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, two things. One, you already are making a concession because you had two qualifiers or two qualified vendors they could choose from. One went out of business, but the other one was 90 grand more.
Yep.
You've already made it, what's the city in the sense of made a concession, look at a third option, which is only 16 grand more. So that's one concession the city's already allowed. And then at best, maybe we split it, but why would the city have to pay the whole cost?
You're not, in my opinion, and again, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think you're obligated to do anything. You can say tough luck. And I think that's probably the end of the story.
But I mean, they're still doing the job, so you still want them to do good work and not realize some other savings down the road that they're not gonna be like, oh, hey, we're just gonna work, we're still trying to recoup 16 grand back.
There's some reality to that.
So
right?
that's why I'm like, I would think that, hey, look, we went from 90 grand to 16 grand, which we didn't have to do that.
Well,
And
from
then,
the standpoint of the contract allowed substitutions. And so even though that Apex Domes wasn't a preferred or a pre-approved, the specs were there, they could have proposed them. Even if they wouldn't have done that because they were higher than the low bid that they received from Ultraflow. But they did have some flexibility in putting together their bid, but
you guys had Stantec had to put time and effort into that though, right?
We
To
did.
qualify it. So my point is, city spent money on that.
you did.
So, in my thing, that's a concession that you're doing to help
Yep.
them. The city is helping them.
Yep.
And then if you want to be equal, you could say, fine, we'd split it, but there's no way, I think as a city, I'd want to pay the whole 16 grand myself. Just
I
saying,
don't think we should either.
No.
I mean, I'm down with splitting it.
yeah, I'm fine with splitting it. That'd be my thing. And then that shows good faith on us.
I agree.
I'm good with that, if that's the way the group wants to go. I just, it's not my decision ultimately, and so I couldn't put it in the change order, so I pulled it. And,
City council's decision, but yeah,
well, I think they're looking to the committee to make a recommendation, my guess is, so.
I'd recommend we split it.
I'm split.
I think at this point in the program, a good faith splitting it now may render us some support further down the road for whatever else may come up, but at least we're showing some good faith, and it's
We're partner.
8,000 with, out of our 2.5% contingency is chump change, so it's really, it's significant, but it demonstrates to the contractor that we're willing to work with them, and
And if these things are 300 grand or whatever, 16
that's different.
is tax, the sales tax.
I know as some of these other change order items have come up, the dollar amounts, how much of a deduct is it? How much of an adder is it? Those things get scrutinized. Are we pretty comfortable with, for example, some of the deducts we got, are they reasonable, or, was it a $50,000 deduct and we got credit for 30? Or.
We've been kind of going back and forth like that, with that going from, the one big ad here went from 95 to 90. We've been kind of pushing back on some of the costs that we see as not fair to the owner. So, and they've made some concessions, which is good. At this point, the net change order is negative 49,000. So we're decreasing the project cost by 49,000. There'll be additional change orders, and that's going to continue to erode. But frankly, we've got a 2.5% contingency here too that we haven't really tapped yet. We're going to tap some of that, and maybe a good chunk of that by the end of the day. Maybe not all at the wastewater treatment plant, maybe more on the collection conveyance side. That's to be determined, but I think they've been reasonably fair and responsive, and I would support splitting that. I think that shows good faith on the owner's part.
Agreed.
So we could, if somebody want to make a motion, if we have a consensus to go that route, we could make a recommendation, a motion to recommend to the city council that we split the cost for the dome roof.
Split the $16,000 costs
$16 add additional costs.
and eat the additional engineering costs that have already been. Yes, okay, all right. Yeah,
Thing actually float.
I would make that motion.
Literally
it's
a dome.
I know you're looking for that.
big one. I will second it.
Big win.
Cool.
Any questions on any of the change order stuff that you guys wanted to go in deeper?
I got one other question, but we got the motion to.
So, and the last comment about the engineering costs, the city that you made reference to.
Yeah, the city's responsible for that cost.
It doesn't get passed on to the.
So that it's not gonna be split or anything. And there were some costs in here that they're essentially paying for some additional engineering, as you guys probably saw.
Does that need to be in the motion though, or is that all understood that the engineering costs?
I think it doesn't hurt. I mean, I'm definitely gonna say that.
I
Because
would-
it's part
I
of,
would want the contractor to know that.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of, look, we're gonna equal cost, but we also had to pay engineering costs to evaluate this other vendor supplier for this dome. That costs X dollars or has X value, right? But that's an expense the city will pay. I think they should know that, and they should be happy.
and they're gonna say the same thing. We did the same thing. We went out and found the vendor and, coordinated the process, and there's additional, and that's true.
So I guess we're both putting effort forward.
Yeah.
So, Paul makes a motion to recommend to council to propose splitting the $16,923. 22. And the city will accept the cost, will accept the engineering cost for the review of the change order.
We'll just, yeah, you'll just pay for it. No cost share with that.
With the engineering portion.
Yeah.
So what do I change then?
That's
City will accept the cost, engineering cost.
just fund. City will fund the engineering costs.
Okay.
Fund 100% of the engineering costs if you wanna be more.
Put a number by it.
Engineering review cost, okay. Okay. A motion to recommend to council to propose splitting the $16,922 cost, and the city will fund the engineering review cost, or I'll take a couple of those costs out. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? That's approved.
The other question I had, Joe, is so the cloth filter item.
Yeah.
So there's a $9,900 engineering, re-engineering cost associated with that. That's a deduct from what we're gonna pay Staub, but that money is gonna get shifted directly to Stantec for the cost of re-engineering.
Right.
So it's a net to the city, it's a wash. We're just taking money from this bucket, putting it in the other. Okay, all right.
But it covers that cost, you know, from the owner's standpoint, and you're not, you know, paying for it otherwise, so. And it seemed to be the cleanest way to do it. So there was also a similar item in the first item with all that precast stuff, all the details had to change, the reinforcements had to change, and you can remember that too. So there was a similar deduct associated with that. And in both those cases, I think I know Nexium is funding that engineering cost, and I think the rest of it was split probably between Wells and Staub. Wells Country. So this will go to council. And I've also sent it to the PCA. They have to ultimately sign off on it. Not that I expect that to be an issue. They've seen most of that, and we've talked about it for several months there. So it's been a slow process, but it's coming together from that perspective. I think that's what I have on the wastewater treatment facility, unless anybody else has items you guys want to talk. Ryland came out last week, right? Was it last Thursday? And we took a look at things. It was last Thursday afternoon.
Yeah. Yesterday, that was, yeah,
Last week, yeah.
last week, yeah.
So, but I would offer that if you guys are interested at some point, have time, either Jeff or I'd be happy to look at it with you.
Should take a tour.
Yeah.
Wade through the mud.
There's no mud,
No.
a little dusty. Yeah,
Yeah.
it never rains anymore,
Yeah.
but most of the roads are built through gravel and,
Yeah.
you know, they've got a clean site.
Yeah.
They've got a nice rock laydown area and they don't work in the mud, which is it's a smart way to do things.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at it too.
Yeah.
Here, once the admin building goes up, I'll go out. Get the full site.
Be a little colder.
Yeah,
It will be a little colder, but that's okay.
It's okay.
It's enclosed. So, yeah. So that's, and that'll be happening this month. Let's move on to Fitzgerald, lots going on with contracts 2 and 3. Right now, there's work on Second Avenue and Fifth Street near River Park. There continues to be work on 12th Street Southwest and Third Avenue Southwest. Some sanitary sewer. There's water main work on Forest Lane and Treetops, that water main that goes between 2 cul-de-sacs on the west side. And then the directional drilling for the fourth main between Lift Station 1 and the river crossing to the south just started here today. And so lots of things going on, and of course, West Center Street. So on West Center Street, utilities are done as of, I think, or just about done as of today. They've got a few services left on Fifth Street, Second Avenue. The streets started to be reconstructed today. So by the end of the week, they should have all of the utilities complete that are within the streets. And they will be reconstructing streets. They've already started, and they'll continue through the rest of this week and probably through a good chunk of next week. They're trying to get Matthew in here sometime later next week to start paving.
When's their deadline?
Technically, the spec talks about having the pavement complete by mid-October. And so from that perspective, they're not meeting that requirement. And if it would happen to get real cold and, they risk, and we've had that discussion about the risk of them having to put temporary pavement down. The risk is pretty modest, and I think from their perspective, they know they've got a lot of work to do and they need to continue to push to get stuff done. And so I think they're.
So it's anything after the 15th, is there cost?
It is a risk. Yeah, if they can't put it down and meet the specification, we could consider it temporary paving that they would pay for. But if they can put it down and get density on the pavement, and meet the normal criteria that we look for, then it would be acceptable.
Isn't it that you can get cement for any temperature, it just costs more?
Asphalt is the.
It's asphalt, yeah, it's pavement bituminous.
We don't want
Eventually they shut
concrete.
the asphalt plant down for the season and you get nothing.
Or
It's
you,
like cement, I know you can pour yours around. They
Yeah,
have different formulations for different temperatures.
yeah, you can't really pour on frozen ground, and there's certain things you just can't do.
Yeah, we don't want winter concrete.
No, and we really, you don't really want to pave on frozen ground for bituminous either. The critical thing is that the bituminous gets placed and compacted and reaches the densities that are required. And if it doesn't, because it gets cold too fast, that's the problem. That's the risk. And so we've had that discussion, and we're kind of at where they're at. They're accepting some additional risk to get some things done.
The road crumbles in spring.
Well, no, that's density. We will pour the roads and we will test. The boards will go to the lab and we will know what the density is.
The 10-day looks pretty good, 10-day.
Well, it's not uncommon to pave, we used to say, used to be that we paved up till almost Thanksgiving, and in the last 10 years or so, it's been a couple weeks before Thanksgiving. So maybe the first week in November, you start to see plants shut down and it just gets too cold, but it varies from year to year. And I don't kind of risk averse, so I don't.
I come down 52 yesterday afternoon, and TCI up there's got a lot of concrete
Oh, yeah.
down, on 52. And
I drive by that every day.
they got a lot, the baskets are out and they got a long ways to go, but that don't go too fast either.
No, I don't. That would even make me more concerned, frankly.
Yeah.
Because,
I might ask
Yeah.
one thing. Over there where you're gonna put that dip, you gonna put that concrete in yet this year or not?
They're saying so. They're saying next week, as soon as Fifth Street's open so that we can reroute traffic, that'll get poured.
I was just kind of wondering if you was gonna temporarily just go through there with a blacktop or something.
Well, that would
Leave it.
be an option too. But, they would pay for that then and they probably don't want to do that, so.
Well, I didn't know, I was just kind of wondering.
So, they finally did get, some of their valves in. And, well, specifically the valves for the air release manholes and some of the force main, the 2, 3, and 4-inch valving, they were having problems getting. And they finally got the valving in that they need. I think there's 5 spots over on the west side that they're gonna be excavating through the gravel over there to, dig a trench and install the air release manhole or install the flushing port. They started that today, so that should probably be done by the end of the week or early next week. We'll kind of probably be scratching our heads as to why they're digging into the road that is built through regular base already, but that's the reason. They didn't have the components necessary to do it at the time.
They give you a. So I think what you're saying too, from the services standpoint, they'll all be done except for Fifth Street Northwest. That would affect paving. And everything else on.
Yeah, I think the service, all the utilities should pretty much be done by the end of the week.
This week.
Real close, yes. And then it's just get the streets built.
Yeah.
Well, and get the culverts in and, there's plenty of work to do. Don't get me wrong, but there's a reasonable window to get that done too, so.
So on Fifth Street, Fifth Street Southeast, are they gonna put the tiling in now or wait?
They will
north
put it
side.
in. And they better put it in, that's my, Yes.
Okay.
Fifth Street, by the way, was better than we thought, from mid-block to Minnesota Avenue is garbage. I mean, but it's not horrible. It's not like we're dewatering and it's pretty dry right now, which helped a lot. But it's also, essentially cold, so you're not drying the soils, but so we'll have breaker run go in that half of the street to stabilize this, the roadway, but we plan for the whole street to get done, so.
Sure. And have they given you a schedule what they're gonna pay first?
Are they giving
Oh,
me a schedule?
I said that word again, schedule, sorry.
What's that?
I said that word, I can't say it anymore, so.
I don't know if they know what schedule means. That's kind of,
That's
you just.
I was
obviously
gonna
they know
ask a
what
question,
schedule.
what, like over across there? Like
Northwest?
way over across the highway and
Yeah.
that road that goes up there.
First and West Center?
Yeah, not West Center, but the other one that goes first when you did.
First.
And it's maybe that way all the way along. The shut off valves are sitting right there close to the road, some of that stuff. Is that stuff that's in there, some of it's sticking up there that high, is that the way it'll stay?
No, they'll get adjusted down. They're set 5 feet inside the right of way line. So the right of way varies up there a little bit as
What I
well, but
was wondering,
vertically they'll get adjusted.
yeah, but what I was wondering was this, will they be get adjusted yet this fall before the snow hits? What I was wondering was that stuff is not marked. And the snow blowers come along and they got the wing down and clip that stuff right off. They're gonna have to just plow the road itself and not as far as pushing stuff back. You gotta be very careful with that.
Well, that's a
So that's what I was
consideration, yeah. we should-
wondering if
we should
that
talk
stuff
about that.
would be marked good enough so they can see it that way. They don't have no excuse if they knock something off.
We better mark them with the steel fence post or dust them to grade.
Yeah, something, and then post it, I mean, can be seen,
Right.
A lot of that they do at night.
Yeah. So lots going on.
So once they're paved, will they do anything on the edge of the road as far as restoration
Yeah.
yet this fall?
Yes. You know, weather permitting. They'll continue to push on those items.
They want to clean up everything they can get.
I think so, yeah, and they're gonna continue to install utilities until. I guess, ideally till at least Christmas.
I see Minnesota from Gas and Go out to 100th Street has been staked now, so that's just for whenever they're ready to do that this
Yeah.
fall yet or winter.
Is that gonna be on the west side of the road going up along there?
Yes,
Is that gonna be drilled in or dug in?
dug in, there is rock up there.
A lot of rock,
Oh, it's spotty, just like everywhere.
but it's all gonna be dug in.
Okay, yeah, all dug in.
Yeah, Joe dug some test holes up there.
Yeah, I know, he did, yeah, I know that, but I didn't know if he decided that they could drill it or not. I didn't know what.
Yeah, it's all. So we did find some, rock in. Forest, no tree. But for directional drilling, water main down, is this forest or treetop? I get these confused. This is
north one.
yeah, so they hit a rock in the treetops cul-de-sac. And probably a few hundred feet to the north. And so this section is gonna be open cut. The rest of it is getting drilled. Yeah, there you go, Ryan. So they've drilled between the houses there. Yep, and they've drilled all the way to the south there, I think. I don't think that they've drilled beyond the cul-de-sac, the northern treetops cul-de-sac, unless they put part of the stuff in from 7th Street north or south.
Forest lane there is like a rectangle marked off there. I don't know if that's where the
Fire hydrant,
open
maybe?
trench starts are going to be, or
Nope, that pipe's in the ground. They did 2 hydrants on Forest.
Yeah.
South and north of Forest. Yep, those were completed yesterday and today.
So I think in that little east-west stretch between, yep, that's not in yet. That's an open cut piece.
and that will be 290s. It's not a,
Yep, no, there's 290s there, just bends.
this is done.
No, from that cul-de-sac to the north. It is not done. Well, about midway through, we hit rock at about 8 feet, and so they can't drill that. They're gonna have to open cut that. Do you know if they pulled that section from 7th Street south?
I'm not sure, Joe. I don't think they did.
Okay.
I think a lot of treetop will get open cut.
Is that gonna be in the blacktop or outside of it?
We're supposed to be outside of it. Depending on the situation there's some driveways with some pretty fancy culverts. They're,
Rock landscape type thing.
yeah, they've got landscaping around the culverts that we might wanna avoid. So if we need to, we'll push into the street and take half the street there.
And this is next spring, first place.
Yep.
I
Yep,
just realized that this, part of this line is on our city property,
yeah,
so it's just a short for the grinder station, then it's gonna be on this private property just a little ways then.
well, it's on city property though. That's a city parcel, own parcel.
Right, no, I'm just saying, instead of going through the whole property, I'm just acknowledging that it's on the city's
Yeah.
street before it goes to the residence.
There's not much room over there, is the reasoning, I think.
So they can't be, is that narrower than what we did over on First Street?
It's narrow over there. There is not much room.
They'll just have to dig it, all the dirt out, all the dirt back in.
Probably. Yeah,
Be a long process.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of rock there. But,
Joe, you mentioned they're doing a forest main river crossing. Is that the one between Garden Park and
Yeah.
Lift Station One? Okay.
they're just starting that. They actually did the drilling on the south side. From the lift station to the river, but they haven't started the drill under the river. By the way, they did. After a couple tries, finish the drill underneath the river on the west side. Along the west frontage road, there's I think a 3-inch force main, 3 or 4-inch force main that got directional drilled under the river. Took a couple tries because they hit some cobble.
Didn't they break a bit there?
Yes, they did.
That's what I remember.
Did we talk about that last time?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
They weren't happy.
They were a little bitter about that.
I remember.
My guess is, a $15,000 piece of tooling that will never see the light of day again.
I go dig it out, I get 15 grand.
16 feet deep, and
Water.
they figured they couldn't dig it out. You might not want to do it either. But yeah,
We had that happen at Canterbury Downs. But before racing season, it got stuck underneath the racetrack and they'd leave it there all through the horse racing season because there was no way they were gonna let them dig it up. Started.
Probably unrelated, but they're working over on North Broadway and 55th Street, that intersection. You know what that looks,
Ellingson,
what's that?
Ellingson's doing that work.
Ellingson's doing that, is that?
Yep.
Is that a line going up to the sewer line going to the trailer court?
Yep,
is that the rock drill they were talking about?
yep.
Yeah. Probably the same crew.
Huge hole there. Elcor was digging.
Yeah, they're going underneath that 55th Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, digress.
How is Fitzgerald in terms of progress? Where we thought they should be?
Frankly, I think that they're behind where I would like them to be. I think they're counting on making a good amount of progress over the winter. I hope that's true. Winters can be difficult to be productive. Some winters, really kind of depends on the weather, but they've set one lift station. They've got a lot of pipe in the ground, but they've set one lift station. The lift stations aren't plumbed. They're not, there's 5 other lift stations to set. There's a lot of work to do. So that's concerning. If you look at the overall contract, it's a 17, there's $17.2 million. And to date, they've done just a little less than $5 million worth. So that kind of paints the picture. Now, there's a lot of money tied up in the lift stations and that stuff, and could they make pretty decent progress over the next 2.5 months? Yeah, they could, or not. That's what makes you kind of nervous. You're kind of depending on the blessing of some good weather rather than doing work when you normally see it done.
Lift stations are, it appears that all the components, the sections are sitting on Mark Keene's property. Further east of Minnesota Avenue, 100th Street. And they've been painting them. I think there's still 2 cars still painting them, the insides of them. Which is before they can put them in, so.
They get an epoxy coating. So. Yeah, and that it's even been painful because they having trouble getting the epoxy, and not just them, everybody is. It's just always something.
Well, that stuff slows everybody up. I mean, you can't. Ever since that business of the way everything has went, things are slowed down. Why you can't really blame the contractors for that either. So
I've got multiple contractors that are having problems with epoxy and different things. Just,
Yeah, they've been probably waiting since May for the epoxy.
we do have a pay request for Fitzgerald. This month's pay request is $656,446. And again, pretty much very similar to the last few months.
As Staub or Fitzgerald talked about when they received the check, that's okay, when they're getting it. You haven't heard
I
anything?
haven't heard a word.
Good.
We do have a progress meeting with the contractor. We just had one with Staub last week, and the next one with Fitzgerald is next Thursday, October. No, 27th. That'd be right. 20th. October 20th. Obviously, if you guys wanna, if anybody's interested, you're welcome to attend. Ryland usually attends, King usually attends, of course I do. So we'll invite council, and I think Jim came last time, was it Jim? Yeah,
Carl was there, Carl was there,
well, Carl came, yeah.
but I'm gonna ask, so we don't have to worry about, I'm just gonna ask Sonny to post it, so we can, don't have to worry about just. Takes
That's good.
25 seconds to do it probably, so.
Okay.
That's at 10 o'clock or 10:30? With Fitzgerald, 10 AM,
I think it's 10 a.m.
20 October, okay.
Is it here?
Yeah, right. Meet around the big table. Take it in, so I guess over the next couple of weeks, really, the summary is the big push is putting the streets back together. So.
People will be ecstatic to have the rock behind them, so.
Yes. Resident notice number 12 went out a couple weeks ago. Resident notice 13 will go out Friday. We're sticking with every other week schedule.
I got my assessment letter today.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah, I have a question. So I brought
I
it.
got one too.
All right.
Yeah, so I guess that's really the next thing on the agenda is the assessments. We've scheduled the assessments, the assessment hearing for November 1st for the people in Orinoco. The assessment hearing for Orinoco Estates is November 14th. Obviously, the one in town here impacts 510 property owners. And is much more complicated than the Orinoco Estates one, which is just the one contractor and or the one property owner. And we've got the assessment agreed upon based on the agreement that was executed last year. So, but yeah,
I got my letter today, I don't know if anybody else did.
you guys all got one?
I didn't look. The mail doesn't come till late now.
I came yesterday.
So I not kind of within the example here, or within the agenda
Morning.
packet, we had, there's a kind of a template that we sent, and you guys have obviously all seen it, but you know, it gives a bunch of information about the meeting and the assessment process. The letter and the text within the letter comes out of a template provided by the League of Minnesota Cities. And we stick pretty close to that template because it was prepared specifically for that purpose and prepared by attorneys to meet the 429 statute requirements. And so we don't take a lot of liberties with modifying that language. I will say and we discussed this with the council, that it's not all that easy to read. But it is the template that they give us, and that's what they tell you to use.
So Joe, if you look at that letter, you'll see some bold, a couple bold sentences.
Yep.
So those were sentences that we added to clarify what Joe was referring to, confusion, what was in the toolkit. So we added the sentence in bold to clarify that it's property taxes on your property taxes in May and October, so.
I guess the only thing that confused me was, I got 8817.
Okay.
For the sewer, and I already have water, so it says your assessment for water is 0. But on page 3, it says total amount of proposed assessment. It says the total amount proposed to be assessed to benefiting Orinoco parcel owners is 5340. Oh, what am I doing? I read this number wrong. Never mind, I just answered my own question. That's the total amount coming out, or that's the total amount of proceeds from the assessments
Yes.
is what that is. Okay, that makes sense now, and which is 11%, 11.5%.
Yeah.
42 million.
And that,
Yeah.
that's literally that specific question, or that sentence is, it's part, it's required,
Right.
so, but it's
I was,
hard to read.
it is, and I mean, I got home, I zipped this open, skimmed it, and now I'm looking at it again. And that sort of jumped out, but no, that makes sense now. That it's a little short on meat when you read the sentence. You're like, well, what does that mean? But now my second or third time through it, I'm like, okay, now I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But,
And I don't disagree, it's just I can't deviate from
Right.
that language
No,
and
and-
feel
and
good about it.
I certainly don't expect this to like reprint this and correct a sentence. No, that's not at all where I'm going.
So that did go out, and then just like we had at the the public hearings in the past, we prep a handout, and I prepped a handout. I think it would be a good idea to post this handout now on the city's website. And it kind of goes through a lot of the same information that we went through before. I've kind of tried to condense it, pull some of the less important information out, but you know, the format's really the same. The numbers are essentially the same. Nothing has really changed. We do kind of talk about the one thing that really did change is the sewer assessment went from 20 to 30 years, which benefited everybody. So that piece is good. But you know, aside from that,
That was the project summary, right? Is that what you called it?
well, yeah, I do the public hearing, a proposed assessment, project summary, you know, and it's really a
Public hearing, okay.
handout at the public hearing. It contains a lot of the same information that's in the mailed letter. And provides some of the background if people care to read it.
say when this is all in and you're making those payments every year. If you sell your house, you have to pay that all up. Or does that go on to the next owner?
You make the buyer pay, because that's exactly what happened when we bought our house. It was right after the water came through.
Yeah, I know you got to,
Yeah, we negotiated that they paid to seal the wells and finish the assessment.
95% of the time that happens.
Yeah,
That's my experience. The new buyer doesn't want to assume that liability or that whatever, but you know, on the other side of it, it's a 30-year loan at 2%. You just
we just wanted it off.
that's a
front.
good deal. But people just like you, that's the normal response. And I think realtors kind of, you know, push people in that, and I don't blame them.
Right.
You know, people don't want that debt hanging over them for the next 30 years and having to think about it. And there's lots of money being exchanged there with the exchange of the property, and people just pay it. But on the other side of it, objectively, it's $8,000 at 2%, you know, you can't go to the bank and get that. So,
Have you? Maybe if you've looked at this, but what percent of streets are gonna be new streets versus all of our city streets? 30%, 12%?
you got like 26 miles of streets, and I think we're doing like 5 miles, so what's that, a fifth?
20%,
20%?
yeah.
Okay, I was just curious what that was, yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but that's what I kind of have on the top of my head. You gotta, Orinoco has a lot of streets.
We have a marathon, just run all the streets. They're short, 0.6, man. Or no, a marathon.
We don't have as many as Pine Island though.
Streets, no.
We got all that front
There's all going
road.
different directions.
Yeah.
You can find your way around.
We don't have all that curb and gutter mess with either.
So what part of the letter did, think, what made you scratch your head or what?
Just that overall, that one line, but now that I've read it a couple times, like, oh, okay.
That was the $5 million,
Yeah.
like,
$5 million, that sucks, but yeah.
$30 a month, $5 million, it doesn't add up.
No, it'll be trust.
I talked with Renee this afternoon. She said there's 4 or 5 calls she got questions about.
I've had to.
That's what they hear.
Asked it or shared to call you if they're with them, so.
That's it.
And they have, and they've been good.
Yeah.
I think getting this summary out along with maybe a little bit more information, specifically this would maybe help a little bit. And the graphics, these are, we have new maps, by the way. They're 99% the same, but there's a handful of parcels that have changed, so we'll probably take these down and put new ones up in their place. So people can see them. We should post the maps too, just so people. It all makes sense if you can look at it.
Yeah. So you'll work with Sunny or Renee to get that information posted, maps and summary.
So we're kind of jumping through the hoops here of the process. And so just so you guys kind of understand that, is we have the assessment hearing on the 1st, that night or very shortly thereafter. The council needs to pass a resolution adopting the assessment roll. And then we wait 30 days. And then the clerk will certify the assessment roll to the county auditor, and it gets incorporated in the property taxes for 2022. And so the reason we wait 30 days is there's essentially an appeals window that they need to essentially file an appeal of their assessment. And so, after that 30-day window is up, then we kind of know what's going to happen or not going to happen. And if there are appeals, then, the council can look at them and just consider them, but the reality is here, we're assessing 13% of the project costs. The numbers are $8,800 is nothing to sneeze at, and $8,800 plus $6,875, that's 15,000. That's real money. And then there's a handful of, properties that, have more than that. Because they have more than one ERU, whether they have, apartments or, it's a business. That's based on water usage, as you guys know. So, I suspect there'll be people that ask and question, but I ultimately in 2009 and 10, no big deal. Even though a lot of people were bitter about it at that time.
What was that percent again? What percent's being assessed? 23?
13. So 26% of the project cost is the local share, but only half of that is being assessed, you remember, because the ERUs over the next 20 years that develop essentially cover the other half. So
The balance.
So
The
November
balance.
1st, do you want this committee all there? Because that's not our normal meeting date, right? Because that's the first one.
yeah, no, that's a different date.
Yeah. So do you want us there?
I think so, if you're willing to. The other side of that though is it takes up seats and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're gonna offer this by
You want
Zoom.
friendly faces or do you want?
Well, I do. We do, but. People also need.
Block the tomatoes.
Chicken wire.
But it is nice if, you know, you've got a string of, you got, you know, 15 people that are mad. And don't want to say anything positive, and then you've got, you know, a few people that'll get up and say, you know, this helped me out, or this is a good idea, I've worked on it for years and there's value here. And then it's not all negative, and that helps. So think about that if you're interested.
I did have another question on this, the deferment, you know, it says if you're 65 or older or deployed or whatnot. So it defers this bill, so if I'm 65. I'm gonna defer, I can defer it till I sell my house, or how does that
So
flop over dead or? what?
you have to submit an application, and the application includes your income. So you have to submit your taxes with it and those types of things, and you have to qualify based on the criteria that the council essentially adopts, or that's within the statute, so. I don't think we had any deferments in 2010 either, even though I know there was people that could have qualified.
I guess my question is, who pays
Oh, so
on the deferment?
essentially the utility pays the cost until the status of the deferred parcel changes. So for example, if you got a individual on a fixed income that's, you know, 75 years old and they apply for a deferment and they meet the requirements of the deferment and 10 years go by and they pass away.
Yeah, go to assisted living or
Right,
whatever.
and then typically that property is exchanges hands and the deferment, you know, the assessment can be put in place plus interest.
So I qualify, I move out in 10 years, somebody else buys my property. They pay the 8817. So the 8817 starts accruing from that. It's not like,
No, the 8817 starts accruing interest from,
but it's
January of
interest inside
22.
though too, right?
They gotta catch up on 10 years of deferred payments.
So you might be on the hook for
Yeah.
10 grand or something, or 2%, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because people know I'm on this committee and people ask me, you know, what's going on. So I like to have a better idea of how this works.
So I could get deferred down to 86.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
if you can meet the income limit, yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
who do you gotta see to do that?
You have to fill out an application with the city clerk. And then the council will look at that and approve them,
How can that be?
or consider approval of them.
If that question comes up at the public hearing, are we gonna have something in writing we can say, here's the process, or rather than just a verbal that? Just because if there are people that want to hear that, are concerned or interested, then we should have something to give them that they can take with them.
Yeah, I gave Sunny an example of a application that I
Okay.
hope she would develop into a application for Orinoco and have made available for people.
But those kind of questions are
I
gonna
haven't seen
come
it.
up.
Yeah,
If not at that meeting, sometime that city staff can respond to. Maybe here's the application process, or the process and the application.
Well, and that again is something that council has ultimate authority over. They may choose not to allow deferments. Is that correct or no?
that's a good question. The statute allows it or requires it. I'd have to research that a little bit more.
The draft that you sent out said may in its discretion defer the payment of the assessment for any, you know, eligible person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a given.
No. No. And I don't know if the statute has specific criteria within it. I guess I should look into that. But I do think Sunny's looking at that too, and she's supposed to be or have developed an application and should have better handle on that. Cause she will get the questions.
So then in addition, so I have the 8817, I also need to decommission my septic system. That'll be another expense I need to absorb.
You are on a gravity sewer.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
drain field, yeah.
Yep. So you will need to do that, and you'll also need to extend the gravity sewer to your house on the property line.
I don't understand. The new line will have to get into my house.
Yeah, so the city's gravity sewer
Yeah.
service stops at the property line.
Yeah.
So you extend it from the
Oh,
property
yeah,
line
I
to
get what
your
you're saying.
house,
I need to hook up,
and then at
yeah.
the same time, pump and abandon your septic tank.
right? They need to knock the end out of the tank and backfill it.
Yeah,
And
and usually that's one, essentially one, the same contractor will do both.
Right,
and Somebody will come pump it, of course.
right.
Yeah.
Cause I wanna change my whole basement flow, cause it's a million miles to the drain field now and it's
Okay.
30 feet to the street.
Okay.
The house is built to go that way, so I'm gonna probably cut out my basement floor, make everything go that way and go 30 feet.
Okay,
So instead of using a 120-year-old pipe that's going out to the,
yeah, probably is a good. move.
probably not a good idea to keep that going.
So my recollection is when, I wasn't around for the water system project, but my recollection from hearing some folks is that the contractor for the water main project actually did some of that work for homeowners. I'm guessing Fitzgerald's not gonna have capacity to do that. And so.
Well, the
you
project will
guys-
largely be done by the time that, because people can't hook up to the gravity sewer until the treatment facility is, so till next fall.
Okay.
So Fitzgerald, and then 2024 is when most people are gonna hook up. And so they'll be essentially done.
Okay.
So they might be interested. And then, there are local folks, Mr. Ottman put in a lot of them here locally. There's a gentleman and,
Not necessarily, but I was just curious, yeah, how timing, how does that happen? And if, somebody's already drilling or laying a pipe right in front of your house,
Right.
but that's not the right time to actually connect.
no, and, a lot of bigger contractors are not interested in doing this stuff.
Ottmans and
Yeah.
And it is kind of a pain in the butt and you deal with all kinds of different people and you don't have the process of having a contract or not, people aren't comfortable with that. It's just,
so I know Dylan's been reading off I did not make copies of those attachments that you've been reading off your phone tonight, but was there assessment, I thought you were gonna put together a sheet about hooking up for individuals and a timeline and that'll be ready for the hearing too, or?
it should be, yes. I've been kind of struggling to deal with
Okay.
other things, so,
So,
but yeah, that's on the agenda that needs to get done
yeah,
because people will question that.
so between Joe's comment and Dylan's comment, so right now we have July 15th it needs to be operational. So they can start installing the grinder stations. The 84 grinder stations.
Yeah, so the contract's interesting. The treatment facility and the collection system have to have limited conveyance capacity so the contractor can start to connect the grinder stations. Because they need time, but the gravity sewer isn't part of that allotment.
Right, so that's the October date, when
Yes,
it's a sustainable operation.
yeah, I'd have to check the contractor. It's late fall, so October, November, something like that.
So after that end of October, 1 November date, gravity people will be hooking up. So when do we hook in the developments?
Same time,
End of October.
yes.
If we have,
So that coincides with substantial completion of the treatment facility.
if we have developers that ask us about anything they wanted that we don't have, like the River Trust land, the 43 acres off of Second Avenue Southeast up on the hill. Cedar Woodland, so that would be end of
Same date.
October date.
Yep, same
They would
day.
connect to that service down on Second Avenue.
That's the target date. That's how the
So,
contract's set up.
So the next question is or a comment was, so we passed an ordinance already, utility ordinance. That you had, is it 12 months to hook up?
That's what I remember.
Okay, so that 12 months starts when?
After
Is it the May date, 2024, or is it the October date,
the October date.
2023? So.
Yeah.
So a year
Be
from
very
now,
clear.
the window opens.
What's that?
A year from now, that 1 year window opens.
Right.
So 2 years from now, essentially, you'll be
Yes.
hooked up.
Or paying the penalty fee.
Yeah, we're holding it.
Fee, right, so.
Is that, you were gonna back up, we're putting together a document that outlines those kind of dates and how to arrange your own contractor. Is it appropriate for that same document to have an estimated monthly user fee?
We've already provided a user fee.
Yeah, I just, it wasn't in any of the stuff. We're gonna be at the public hearing. And I assume people are gonna ask that question also, how much is this gonna cost me every month? In addition to the $33 assessment.
Yeah, in the frequently asked questions document, the first one we put out, I think there was 25 questions and that was one of them.
$33 per 500 gallons or something like that. 35,
My kids go through 500.
5,000 gallons.
We probably have a slide on that too in the presentation for the public hearing. I know I did before. We'll probably have that just because people will want to know too.
Yeah, I don't have it. But yeah, it's been established.
Yeah, oh yeah, I knew we had kind of set some rates and fees. I just, think that, you know, they're gonna ask that question. I don't even remember what they
No,
are, right?
It's a fair question.
Yeah, I just know it's cheaper than what I'm paying right now, so.
That's what I had a lady ask me that today too. A great question. I said, I don't know what you're paying now, but I understand that it's gonna be less.
Jack and Dan Zemke, they've been out here 2 weeks ago. They were debating whether they're gonna have to replace one of the pumps in the lift station behind my house.
Oh,
They've got a redundant system and both of them weren't working. So I don't know if they replaced the pump or. So he was asking about the dates and about the lift station. He wasn't aware we was gonna put a lift station in there, but anyway. We'll be glad when we get the city sewer. It's gonna
Jack
cut
will
it
be glad when he's not dealing. with
probably
it.
in half or more. And I think the Riverwood Hills have the same opinion too. Speaking of Riverwood Hills, and we talked with once briefly about when we would be sending them a letter about hooking up their systems.
Mhm.
That's still to come this fall yet, you think, or?
Yeah, it could. I think that's probably the last thing we can probably deal with the contract. So there's time
On the task list.
on the task list of things to look at and get accomplished, but certainly not on the top of the list right now.
Anything else? Otherwise, we just touch base. I don't have anything new on operator contract, wastewater treatment plant operator responsibilities. Sunny was doing something, but I haven't heard anything from her. Any contacts or any input, so.
When we say contract, we're looking at hiring and.
Hiring a
outside
contract
operating.
like people service or
Third
Viola,
party to operate it.
another company,
Yep.
like a 2 to 3 year contract to operate and start up. I'm not sure what the time frame would be, what right around that July or June timeframe. And that would all be part of our utility funds supporting that, user rates. We're also looking at in the contract when we do that is to set up some type of training program. So that our public works people can follow along, at least to the point of getting some experience. Maybe potentially some hours. Whether that happens in the first year, but it will be in the contract somewhere, just to get that going, so. At least that's the general thinking right now versus hiring a city employee, at least at this point, just we feel like going into this. Hiring a contract company, it's hands off. And they do everything and they take care of their vacations and time off and. But at the same time, we want our public works people to learn too, so.
Seems like a reasonable way to transition.
If I remember correctly too, because you're starting from scratch, there's no SOPs, safety manuals, all of those documentation stuff that you need on a brand new facility. And somebody's got to write that, someone's got to come up with all those things, so.
Well, the
The
Tools
contractors
and-
will provide a lot of that. They built it out.
Well, yeah, you go get an operation
O&Ms. yeah.
O&M manual from us.
But you won't have ventilators or
Yeah.
gas meters for confined space entry or truck to
Right,
pull
a lot of
pumps
overhead.
or any of that. So that makes sense, yeah.
What's the daily commitment to operating the plant? Is there somebody there? They're not 3 shifts, I'd assume. Is there somebody there 9 to 5 or what's the typical?
I would think that there'd be somebody there most of the time. They don't always, it doesn't have to be the class A operator.
Right,
For
but there'd be an overnight guy at the plant, no?
Not necessarily.
Daytime,
Be an alarm system that'll dial someone on call.
automation. So,
Be a lot of lights around the place, so it's gonna. Setting it way out in the country out there.
Yeah, there's a perimeter fence around it, and then there are lights on the building as well as street lights, light poles.
Yeah.
nobody wants to.
It's not
steal
like a
sewage
Christmas tree,
anyway.
but yeah, lit up.
Yeah, yeah, they might think there's other stuff there they can get.
Yeah.
The city is looking at a security system. Or, and maybe you can comment on what you know about it, or. So the idea is to have a security system with the treatment plant, our buildings, the wells. So they're on some type of camera systems that we can watch and monitor, and that's the plan. That's what we want to do. The system we have now is 8+ years old. It's battery, just a video cameras in the hallway and one to the outside, so.
Looks like our $40 million investment.
State's $40 million.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's what I do. I do cloud, Azure cloud stuff, so.
So when you rip a bunch of newish stuff out of your next job and throw it in the
We
dumpster.
happen to find out that it happened. No, but I'm wondering about these grinder pumps and stuff, because we can put all that stuff on the web, so.
I think the grinder stations we will be getting will not have that functionality built in, but could have it
There's
added.
telemetry, radio telemetry off of them though, isn't there?
No, not, I think out of the box. It's
Like a
capable.
buzzer goes off or light or something if it jams.
Local. the
Local
light.
enunciation.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not gonna go to the cloud.
all right. Okay. Yeah, it'd probably be. It's totally doable, but it's a matter of how much more does it cost to add radio telemetry to it or something.
The system we're getting has a plug-in module, a
Right.
service, yeah.
Right. But then
but
there's
more-
cellular service per installation or, how does it communicate? There's those questions too.
But I think our main lift station will also have telemetry. One.
Yeah, they're,
Telemetry.
yeah, all of them.
Yeah, is it cellular or how does it?
They're radio, I think.
Okay, so it's a local RTU radio telemetry units. Yeah, it's doable.
Our church is putting in a rather extensive security system and cameras, and they've been talking about this place about 6-7 months ago. And in that 6-7 months, they've already had to upgrade the cost of it just because the technology is changing.
Yeah.
Just gonna, case in point, sitting right beside it.
So a Ring doorbell wouldn't cut it.
I could make that work. I don't know how reliable it'd be, but
4 ring doorbells. I think we got it.
could make that work.
I think we mentioned too, at the treatment plant, there's gonna be 1 key for all the doors. So we're not having to have anybody carry around a bunch of keys, so it's all gonna be 1 key for 1 key, so.
How many doors you got? I got 7 doors to keep track of over there. Outside door. Go around, check all them.
Oh, church,
Yeah.
church, yeah.
Mean dogs,
All right,
mean dogs, that's the answer.
anything else for us to discuss? Kane?
I know it's gonna come up at the open house or the meeting here, but the rate schedule, and we talked about that $35 per month average bill for your sewer. So what if somebody uses 100,000 gallons of water, you know? And that does happen, especially in the summertime, so are we gonna have an example of what their bill is gonna cost based on?
The field or
Well,
I
swimming
know
pool
we
or whatever.
talked with Joe about that, I don't know if it's in the,
Well, that,
Because aren't we taking the water meter reading?
aren't we proposing a graduated fees like we talked?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to here is if we have a rate schedule like our water usage.
Usually it's based on the winter, 3 winter months average, so that irrigation and pool filling don't.
We're using
impact.
January, February, March
Yeah.
water
so-
rates.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter if you use
yeah.
100,000 gallons or if you use below average. It's the same.
For a,
Same winter month.
for a
average.
residential, a commercial might be metered different, different.
I guess I was just
Yeah.
under the thought that if you use more water and we need to treat more water,
Mhm.
you're gonna pay for that.
Yes.
It's not the case.
That is the case, but it does, they use the 3 winter months because nobody wants to put in a separate irrigation water meter. Or have to have the fire department come out and fill up their pool, those kind of things, so.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm sure people are gonna ask that. We've had some people this year that have. Gotcha.
And that will, like, for example, I had a line break and I was blowing water out the side of my house for 12 hours or something. I paid for that on the water side. I didn't have to pay for that on the wastewater side because it's not going down the pipe to the treatment plant, it's running to the river, so.
Yeah, that's-
Sometimes you'll get folks that go to Arizona for the winter. And they don't use any water. And then they get free wastewater charge, but you can put something in your ordinance too, where it's minimum 5 units or whatever charge.
I think we have some language and that there's some discretion,
Yeah, pipe charge.
if there's obviously no use, then we're not gonna use those months. For example, the Tilly's RV park, well, we estimated ERUs not based on their winter months, but on their 12-month average use, rather than those 3 months. Not that they're irrigating anyway, they're, all the water that they use is, or most of it's cycled back, I'm assuming, so.
Will they be on they'll be on the collection system for the RV dump
Yeah.
or their sites?
I thought they were closing though, I thought they were shutting down the first of the year.
The restaurant is.
Oh, they're gonna keep the RV park.
Oh, no,
on?
I didn't know that, really?
They're
Yeah.
just changing owners.
Looking for a new manager.
Oh, so they might still be open, because
New
last I
people,
read, they were
leasing,
shutting down.
probably.
They're
Okay.
just looking for a new leaser.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
Surprised.
I thought they did pretty good over there,
It's more keeping people working, having
Maybe.
staff to run the
You-
place.
Is that,
Oh, never mind, we're just sidebar.
you know if Hilltop or Camping World has a receptive sewer system or?
Septic receiving?
So I was at Camping World today. Noble RV is what it started out as. Now it's Camping World. And locating their water line out to the street. And I did notice they have a clean out inside their building, hooked up to their sanitary sewer. And they hook up just like you would if you were camping. They just have a flexible line that goes to a clean out where they can hook up and flush into the sewer. Their sewer,
They're septic, yeah.
their septic. So that,
So they're not getting assessed for that. We're gonna have to talk about whether we wanna allow that to continue, and if we do, they should pay for that service.
So that's in the building though?
Yeah, they
it's
should
in
pay
the
for
building, yes. I witnessed it
And
today.
obviously it doesn't, The water meter isn't gonna count for that, so.
This was just camping
Well,
world,
no,
I've
but-
not been in Hilltop.
But, you know, that's just in my opinion, that would be an incidental use where somebody pulls their RV in for service and the tank's not empty. They have to empty it. Anything they do to flush the tank is gonna be billed for water usage and then subsequently wastewater. So, you know, unless it's a publicly accessible, people can pull up, you know, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and dump their tanks. I don't know that's a big concern for.
I feel like they should pay for that service. I think that it's not accounted for at all in the water use and the 1.6 ERUs that they're paying in their assessments.
Well, the people that own the campers paying for it.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, they're getting.
yeah,
We're
you
not.
know, and
I don't think they charge for that. If, I mean, if, you know, if like. Well, I mean, if it's in the building, I don't think, you know, they're probably not advertising it as.
Yeah.
Come on by and dump,
Right.
right? It's
I
a
agree.
service we're
It's a
offering to our
service.
customers. It's incidental to the work they're doing there.
Right.
The
Paying
service
customers.
And I would guess it's a minimal impact.
maybe.
Yeah, if it's inside the building, I'm not a RV camper, but I would think if it's inside a building, it's not a public access, so it's,
Yeah. And
it's just
nobody,
strictly for mechanical purposes. If they have to work on the tank or whatever, drain it, and that makes sense to for them to have that, but. Versus just a periodic, mine's full, I need to empty it, kind of use your stall, well, they're gonna charge them for using the stall, but I don't think it's.
yeah.
And maybe it's just a conversation we need to have with them too, just. Can you confirm, we understand you do RV dumping? What do you do with it? How often do you use it? Because we're concerned about sewer rates being based off of water rates, and then you're adding more to the system. The city is not getting those operational costs to cover that X amount of sewage that you're putting into our system.
Yeah, I can certainly see, but it feels like that's probably not a real issue. I mean, nobody pulls their RV around with full tanks if they don't have to.
I would hope that the camping road says, if we're gonna work on it, you gotta dump it some other place, because we're not gonna dump it. Whatever, 350 gallons, whatever it is, I don't know.
They do, most of those places don't.
They don't?
Not that I've seen.
No. It's a tough business.
Are you the only camper in the crowd? Do you wanna check on that?
Go there with a full tank.
Yeah.
Undercover.
Cause the flip side of that is if you decide to charge them, now you gotta figure out how to track it, how to meter it or bill it.
But
And
then we're
trust
back
that
to the
they're gonna
ERUs, you know?
report honestly and.
That 1.6, maybe it's 1.8 or whatever that number, I don't know,
Yeah.
minimum number is, but.
Or it's just another ERU, period. You know,
I mean, if I take my RV and I carry my 5-gallon buckets from my tank and dump it down my toilet, that doesn't get metered. I'm getting away.
You're doing
I
that
have
too?
done it. I have done
You're
it.
doing that too?
You know, I didn't want to. So I'm just, you know, it's.
You just crack the valve
Man.
and drive the target. I mean,
You got a tough
I think
crowd
I
here.
think in the big picture, it's inconsequential.
Back to nature, fertilizing the ditch, you know. I don't know how that blue stuff works though with the ditch, probably not. the
I
best.
don't either. I don't want to.
I mean, I can call them too and find out, I've got an RV that, or a camper that needs to be dumped, can I dump it? Do you have a dumping service or not? And ask them how much it costs, or they can tell me too. They're gonna say, no, we don't publicly do it, but we do it for mechanical reasons or whatever.
2 years ago, we had a person open his tank out, and at night he'd go out and pull a plug on her, spread her on a township road.
Yeah.
He
They
got
do
caught
this.
up to by the township, he lost his job.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of eyes out there in the township. All right. Anything else? Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Yeah,
Adjournment.
8 PM. Super, thank you.
Until we meet again.
See you, public hearing. Maybe Zoom and, well, hopefully it'll be Zoom. If it isn't, we're in big trouble.
What's broken in the rack?
Huh?
What's bad in the rack?
Yeah, that's why the cameras aren't working.
Yeah. The
Joe,
It's a,
just curious.
video switcher went bad or
what's that?
the video switcher went bad or what? happened?
Wastewater.
It's a web,
In Rochester.
this module down the second
They
bottom is a
usually,
web master.
sample on some frequency.
And that
The
went
big
out and
industries,
and
it's
making it
3
even
times a
worse.
week.
Just trying to find a remanufactured one.
Sure.
You know, and that twice.
Feel your pain.
You got one?
No, not on me.
All right, thanks, guys.
Build your extra island.
Thank you.
Maybe
Yeah.
that'll be a more appropriate. You know, concern. It is.
I have no idea how frequently that happens, if it's a daily occurrence, if it's every few hour occurrence, and twice a week occurrence, even if it's.